This is Thursday, December 18th, 33 days until the inauguration of President-elect Barack Obama. As outrage flies over Obama's selection of right-wing evangelist Rick Warren to deliver the invocation at that inauguration, words spoken exactly 2 weeks ago tonight would seem in retrospect prescient. The Bible says that evil cannot be negotiated with. It has to just be stopped. The speaker was Rick Warren. In our fifth story, if Warren represents people to whom agreement with their religious beliefs is the only measure of right or wrong, how can Obama gain anything from their side? And if in preaching their evangel, Warren compares gay marriage to incest and pedophilia, how can Obama gain anything from his own side? Even Warren, to some degree, acknowledges this in a just-issued statement which reads in part, "I commend President-elect Obama for his courage to willingly take enormous heat from his base by inviting someone like me with whom he does not agree on every issue to offer the invocation at his historic inaugural ceremony. Hopefully individuals passionately expressing opinions from the left and the right will recognize that both of us have shown a commitment to model civility in America." Warren's statement just released. Protest of this choice by no means limited to the 6 million gay and lesbian Americans who helped elect President Obama, though this is the same Rick Warren who campaigned actively for California's Proposition 8, banning gay marriage, the same Rick Warren who believes ministers who seek to deny the civil rights of gay Americans are themselves persecuted for hate speech. He will deliver the invocation on the west front of the Capitol on January 20th. In a letter to the president-elect, the Human Rights Campaign calling Mr. Obama's choice of Reverend Warren, quote, "a genuine blow to lesbian, gay, bi, and transgender Americans. By inviting Rick Warren to your inauguration, you have tarnished the view that gay, lesbian, bisexual, and transgender Americans have a place at your table." The Human Rights Campaign also disputing the idea that Reverend Warren has ever sought or would ever seek the middle ground, adding, quote, "Reverend Warren is not a moderate pastor who's trying to bring all sides together. Instead, Reverend Warren has often played the role of general in the cultural war waged against LGBT Americans." If you were to ask Reverend Warren himself if he were homophobic, as Ann Curry did for an interview airing tomorrow night on Dateline NBC, he would tell you no, because of donuts.
Are you homophobic?
Of course not. I have always treated them with respect. When they come and want to talk to me, I talk to them. When the protesters came, we served them water and donuts.
Lost amid the outrage that there will be another preacher at the inauguration, one with an actual role in American history that does not owe to having had a best-selling book. Mr. Obama asking the Reverend Dr. Joseph E. Lowery to deliver the benediction. The Reverend Lowery having co-founded the Southern Christian Leadership Conference with the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. President-elect Obama mentioning Dr. Lowery and his reasons for having chosen Reverend Warren at a news conference this morning in Chicago.
I think that it is no secret that I am a fierce advocate for equality for gay and lesbian Americans. It is something that I have been consistent on. I was invited to Rick Warren's church to speak, despite his awareness that I held views that were entirely contrary to his when it came to gay and lesbian rights, when it came to issues like abortion. What we have to do is to be able to create an atmosphere when where we can disagree without being disagreeable, and then focus on those things that we hold in common as Americans.
Let's call in John Harwood, CNBC's chief Washington correspondent, of course, political correspondent with the New York Times as well. Good evening, John.
Hey, Keith.
Our friends in the Washington Bureau, including Chuck Todd, who's going to be covering the Obama White House as NBC News chief White House correspondent, wrote this morning that David Axelrod and Robert Gibbs have to be smiling at this outrage because it never hurts when you sometimes disappoint/anger your party's interest groups. What is the upside here that they're referencing?
Well, Barack Obama, of course, is becoming president, Keith, of all the people, not just the people who voted for him or backed him in the Democratic primaries. He's made a cardinal principle of his campaign to reach out to people who disagree with him. He clearly meant it. And he sees evangelicals. He got a quarter of the vote among white evangelicals, slightly better than John Kerry did. But he thinks there's more of an upside, especially among younger evangelicals. Rick Warren, though he is very conservative on some political issues, is more moderate in style and temperament. He's a younger leader. The Falwells and the Robertsons are off the stage, and this is an opportunity for Barack Obama to try to make some headway with little substantive cost to his own agenda.
The idea of compromise, though, from those who got Obama elected for 8 years under the current president, compromise has meant, in essence, everybody who's not on the far right needs to concede something to the far right, and then they'll call it a compromise. So now the first compromise for President-elect Obama, and at least in this case, it's true, everybody who's not on the far right still needs to concede something to the far right, and that's compromise. Setting aside the issue here, just talking about the politics of this equation, why shouldn't the left and much of the center be upset about this?
Well, here are a few reasons. Troops out of Iraq within 16 months. $800 billion stimulus package, including alternative energy, infrastructure, aid to cities, a huge program that Barack Obama is continuing to push to dramatically expand health care coverage. He has not backed off one iota the left-leaning issue agenda that he promoted during the campaign. We're now in this unusual period, Keith, where the only thing we have is optics and symbolism, and people are looking at those, including this choice, including the some of his cabinet members, and saying, oh, he's tacking to the center. He hasn't done it on policy, and once the administration starts, I think that will be more plain to those in his base, and they'll be a little bit less upset than they are right now.
Is there a second political calculation here, John, or am I giving them too much credit here? Obama's statement in there, it is no secret that I am a fierce advocate for equality for gay and lesbian Americans. That is pretty much a first for an American president. Did he bury his own lead with the Warren invitation, or maybe did the Warren invitation buy him some political cover so that he could make such a blunt statement about gay equality, even if it's so long in coming?
It certainly buys him cover while he's reaching out to those younger evangelicals. Again, it goes to this point about the substance of his agenda. He is an advocate of gay and lesbian rights. There is, incidentally, going to be a place in his parade for gay and lesbians that has not been as prominent in past campaigns. But again, on the substance of the issue, the left ought to be confident that Barack Obama is one of them. This is a case of symbolism, and it's symbolism that, as I said, does not exact a cost from Barack Obama's agenda.
In terms of the symbolism, finally, John, does Dr. Lowry balance out, or is he intended to balance out Reverend Warren?
Well, absolutely. And if you look at the most powerful symbolism of this inauguration, is the fact that we're swearing in the first African-American president, bridging the divide that is the deepest and the most troublesome throughout American history. So I think Joseph Lowry, though not chosen to counteract Rick Warren, is going to be, and the issue that he stands for and represents, is going to be much more powerful in the larger scheme of things.
John Harwood of CNBC and the New York Times. As always, John, thanks for your time tonight.
You bet.